Hello, everyone.
Hey,
How are you, Florin?
I'm excellent. How are you?
Good, good.
I'm waiting to see now if everybody will join. See, a few people have joined, which is great.
Yeah, good.
What times we live in?
We have Katerina and Alex, and your need.
Yeah.
Katerina and Georgia and Muna. Great.
Let's see.
Mute this one.
Please do. Doesn't look very professional.
What is the sound here? This one.
Okay.
So many computers with this. Hope we won't get attacked during the event.
Yeah, you advertise cybersecurity, as an event, and then you get hacked, and that doesn't look good.
Doesn't look good, huh? Should have spoke about what have we done to protect this event.
Yeah.
Um, okay, let's see. We have more people joining. We're gonna wait a few more minutes, I think, before we start, or maybe just one or two.
Yeah.
Um,
Just give a few people time to join.
See, you prepared us a lot of stuff on the chat, which is great.
Yeah, there's a lot happening in the world. We've got polls for people if they're interested. Let's see here. Alex says hi there. Hey, Alex. Glad to have you here. Let's see here. Guys, feel free at any time to check out the polls. Let us know what your opinion is on this matter. Feel free at all times to message us in the chat, ask us questions. We're more than happy to answer them and explain what our, not, I wouldn't call it so much opinion as educated and experience on this matter.
Yeah, I will take. Yeah, I think we can start. So first of all, hi everyone, and good to have you here with us. We will do this event today on cybersecurity and the threats around cybersecurity these days. Obviously, it's a wide concept, but we will speak about it from the business perspective. These events are for us to share from the experience we have here in Bridger and with our merchants. So let's get started.
Perfect. So, for those people who are just joining, maybe you haven't attended one of these webinars before. This webinar is hosted by myself, Florin. I'm the head of customer success at BridgerPay. I'm joined by Ran Cohen, our co-founder and CEO. And I actually was very happy to talk about this particular subject, which is cybersecurity, and we'll be putting special emphasis on the human error when it comes to cybersecurity, because Ron, oftentimes when you see movies and TV shows that they depict hackers as these guys in basements drinking Red Bull, and they're just typing away really rapidly at keyboards, pressing enter, high-fiving each other, very, very hyped up that they've just managed to crack into the Pentagon. But in reality, we find that with businesses, that's not the case. Most of the time, a lot of cybersecurity attacks happen simply because of human error. And that's what we want to touch on this one. And we'll go through some of the most common human errors that occur when it comes to cybersecurity. So let me load up the presentation and show everyone. One sec. Okay. So, when we talk about human error in cybersecurity, I've posted here four major topics, which is, let's start with insecure networks. This is something that a lot of people don't really touch on a lot. And, now these days when we're logging in from home to work due to COVID restrictions, maybe some people decide, my internet's down, I'm BridgerPay downstairs, no problem, I can start work. But the issue with that is most of the time the networks we connect to, we have no idea how well are they secured. They're referred to as insecure networks, and when we hear insecure network, we're thinking, well, they need a morale boost. They're not very secure about themselves. But the truth is, a lot of things can get passed back and forth on these networks. Your everything that you're doing, including cookies that you might be sending, might be captured, information, stored data. A lot of information can be monitored on a network that you're not secure about, that is not secure. And this is something that a lot of people might not be aware of when they are working from home or when they are working from logging in with their work computers or their work phones from networks which perhaps they shouldn't be logging in from. Then we have malware. Malware, it's self-explanatory. You have viruses and a lot of things you can click on in links, and that can be done often through phishing attempts, which we also have there.
That happened too.
Yeah. And phishing attempts are super common in today's day and age, and I'm sure everybody has had experience at least one time or another. I mean, Ron, I'm sure you can share a few examples of times.
Yeah, phishing. First of all, phishing has a few examples, but if we look at the broader scope of human error, we're speaking here about networks and viruses or antiviruses and phishing protection. In the end, when you want to protect yourself as a business, it starts with the infrastructure of the technology that your entire website, let's say, is built on. The servers, the way that they are handled, the security behind them, the security protocols. As a PCI level 1 company, we are going through a very tough process on a yearly basis. And also on a quarterly basis, where we are being tested and measured and monitored on many aspects related to security and infrastructure, and that's a very big core from what we needed to do here. But the infrastructure and technology is only one part of how you protect yourself. Also, of course, building a safe network for people to use, even when they go to the coffee, right? So even if you go today to the coffee and you want to log into Bridger, you still will go through security protocols. So it's all a part of the infrastructure that you prepared. And on the other side, there's the people factor. There's the people that are responsible on the security of your networks, on the education of the employees, of trying to test and trying to, it's like when you do a QA to a campaign, you want to QA yourself as well in your security. So we have people in our team and in outsourced team that's what they do. They try to hack us and they try to send us different mails of phishing to see how we respond to it. And that's also happening from time to time. And that's something that any company or business that wants to be able to protect himself needs to do. It will keep you safer, not safe, but safer. And so it's the people factor and the technology. And when you go to the people, of course, you have different roles and different hats that you need to place in order to really protect. If it's from the data side, from the network side, and the DevOps. So we have very talented people with us in the team that are doing this work for us. And as a company that the product of our product is being served in hundreds and thousands of websites, it's a product you want to protect and make sure it's very much safe as much as you can.
Look, I agree 100%, and I believe you should, and any responsible company would hire people specifically dedicated to the cybersecurity aspect and everything that you just mentioned. But we're talking here about companies, major ones like multi-billion-dollar companies that have had cybersecurity breaches in the last few years because of human error. And one that comes to mind, and one that I've actually worked for, was Electronic Arts. Electronic Arts got hacked recently, and the way the hackers managed to get into EA was through Slack, one of the most secure channels of communication in a company. They were hacked through Slack, and I can tell you from personal experience. I can't share obviously any information on this, but I can tell you from personal experience, EA are very secure in terms of everything with their product, because any leakage of personal information, imagine they're a game developing company. So if a photo of an unfinished product gets released, people might not buy the product, So they're very, very cautious about all of this. And yet they got hacked simply because somebody bought online cookies that were stolen from an employee. With those cookies, they managed to create an account in Slack and access EA's Slack group. And then they just requested the IT team to give them two-factor authentication to log into their servers, where they downloaded 780 gigabytes worth of data from EA. Imagine the impact that has on a business that is a multi-billion-dollar business. This is software that they develop.
And that's when you know the impact of an attack. There was not long ago an attack on a 3D authenticator company in the US. And we are still waiting to hear what's the depth of the attack. But and you have today more and more companies that are handling data and handling personal information. But you can also see the other trend from the other side, and we can see it from PCI to PCI and from pentest to pentest, that there are more and more aspect that comes in terms of data handling and security and phishing protocols, and those protocols are growing. It's not like it's the same every year, and they are evolving according to what we see and hear. To hack, you can hack everything. So that's guys. By the way, we have a chat here, and if you have any questions to us, we'll be very much happy to answer.
I'll check out the polls in a bit. I wanted to finish this presentation here because we mentioned so far, insecure networks, malware, phishing. Failure to update software is actually surprisingly common, where companies sometimes simply forget to update important software. And obviously these software updates happen, guys, because you have companies like Microsoft who are constantly finding backdoors or issues with their products, and they're trying to fix them as soon as possible. So when you fail to update your Android or your Mac or your Microsoft software, your system becomes vulnerable to attacks. And unfortunately, a lot of people seem to forget that this is a very, very important thing that they need to do. And this goes back to how
by the way, it's a bad user experience, because every time I see this, I say, okay, what they need to update on my Mac now? Why should I update? It works right. It works okay.
Yeah, of course.
And it's the thing, because you don't want really to go over this process, and companies that are like Apple, for example, or Windows, that you need to actually make an action in order to update. It's a hassle. Other online softwares are running updates multiple times a day, and there is full monitoring processes to know that you have done the release well, and everything is checked and everything is tested. So releases is painful when you're obviously speaking about very big platform, and platform that needs the clients to actually make an action in order to do it. Okay, let's move to the next one.
Let's see here. Phishing. Going back to what I was discussing earlier, this is one of the most common ways in which a lot of companies get data breaches. You have so many forms of communication from Skype, MS. I gave an example earlier with Slack, WhatsApp, Teams, Telegram. It doesn't matter what you're using. Hackers will always try to exploit this vulnerability. They'll always try to exploit human empathy through any means possible. And the best way, the reason why I want to focus a lot on phishing is because this is very similar to, in my experience, to the Nigerian prince scam, which was very popular in the US and throughout the world. I'm sure a lot of people know what the Nigerian prince scam is, but very briefly, it was basically a bunch of emails sent to random people telling them that they are Nigerian prince. They have their money blocked in a bank, and they need you to send them 10,000 or whatever amount of money so they can unlock that money. And once they get their money, they pay the bank fees, then they'll pay you back the 10,000 plus another 100,000 or something along those lines.
All those blackmails scenarios.
Exactly.
Yeah,
And
but it's if you take it down to more practical, it happens every day. An email that our finance team is getting with me requesting them to transfer immediately, and also this email is, let's say, in the evening, right? So we're not in the office, or the finance is not in the office, and when it comes, or when it's it at night, and I'm asking them to immediately transfer urgently to this account, this IBAN, and that those mails are coming, and we saw them not once or twice. And there are many different cases. I heard of, I know friends that fall in that trap, and it's a very risky, world when you get an email that almost completely looks like I sent it, or someone else, and that's that's something you want to protect yourself from.
yeah, absolutely. And that's how, when you think phishing, right? You need to first of all understand that a lot of these guys, sometimes for them it's a numbers game. They'll send these emails out to maybe hundreds of people, or maybe it will be a targeted attempt at your company. It is possible, one or the other. Sometimes it can be, sometimes it's not. And when it's not, usually phishing emails will look a lot like they'll try to create this urgency about them. Like one example you gave with you need to transfer the money right away. This is urgent. And when it's coming from the CEO, you don't want to tell the CEO no, or the CFO, right? You don't want to go to your boss and be like, yeah, I'll get to it when I get to it, right? And then it's also a matter of exploiting human empathy, because I saw a very interesting actually video. There's a hackers convention in the US in Las Vegas called DEF CON. And I saw a very interesting video with a lady who managed to access somebody's phone accounts, his phone records and everything. And from that, she also got access to a lot of other personal information. But simply by calling the phone company, masking her phone number to resemble his, and exploiting that human's empathy by playing the sound of a crying baby in the background and explaining to him that, I'm sorry, my husband must have forgotten to put me on the plan. I need you to put me. I have to do this today. My husband's going to be very upset with me. I can share that link if people want to see it. But basically, this woman managed to convince the phone operator on the spot to give her access to somebody's personal account, change his password, right? Imagine how much access you can have with somebody's phone details.
There's a company in Israel called Checkpoint. And there was just an article not long ago, and the guy was hacking an ultrasound machine while his wife was being checked, and he was playing with it, and he actually hacked the ultrasound machine, took all the data of all the women that the ultrasound machine did with all the different babies into his phone, while his wife is being tested. It's a very imaginary and very talented guy, but it was just on the news in Israel. But that was just one case of them hacking, and Checkpoint has a history of hacking everything from Sony PlayStations to WhatsApp to iPhone to.
Yeah.
It became a hobby for them to show these, openings in different companies and allowing them to work on it.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why, guys, whenever you check your emails, whenever you see something along the lines of, hi, this is so and so, please urgently do this, or you get a weird email, always check where the email, take a second to double check the email address. Does that look authentic to you? Maybe it has an extra one at the end. Maybe it's not your boss. Maybe it's Ran Cohen spelled with, I don't know, he put a 0 instead of the O. Maybe you can find a lot of different inventive ways to mask and pretend you're somebody else.
I think any mail that, like you're saying, is first of all showing some kind of an urgency. Could come from the CEO or your R&D or DevOps team together with the signature and everything, but one thing won't be the same because they copy it but not fully, and you get always this phishing email with like 50% look and feel or 70% look and feel like it's from me. It's a bit fishy. And when we are examining these emails, we see that there is some kind of a correlation between them because they don't have the complete look and feel of an email that comes from a company. Anything that is related to password needs to be double checked.
Absolutely.
Anything related to transfers, I would double check in other sources which are direct with which are not the same as the one I got. So not return the email with a reply, of course, and go to another channel if it's Slack or WhatsApp or another channel which is parallel to the one you got the request from, which sounds weird, and try to figure out if it's a hacker or the real thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Always double check, guys. It doesn't. Sometimes in this line of business, it's always good to be a bit paranoid. I mean, even if it is something urgent, trust me, I think at the end of the day, your employer will appreciate you taking that extra step. And of course, in our line of business, also not just informing your employer and double checking, but in our line of business, it has a lot to do with informing the businesses you work with. We've had the cases, with businesses where accounts of some of our clients got hacked, and then they attempted to get information from us, where we were like, wait 1 second, why do you need the password change? You have a link for that, my friend. Why do you need me to send you this? Why do you need these are questions that every team should be instructed on. And the question you should be asking yourself is, how much time are you dedicating to training your employees to do this? And the software providers you're working with, how much time do they dedicate to this? Because if you're working with a software provider who doesn't take the time to do this, like I gave the example earlier with the phone company, you work with a phone company and they just gave away your personal details.
Yeah.
Would you ever work with that phone company again?
Places that got hacked got a big confidence blow, and I'm guessing it's also corresponding to their sales and operation, because a company that got hacked has a lot to bring back in terms of confidence to the users. It's not an easy process. We are moving to the next slide. We have there
this was just a very nice photo of just a way to show how easy it is to hack. Here are a few examples, because you mentioned earlier, it's funny that you mentioned earlier getting an email from one of your people from your one of your guys from finance, getting an email saying, I need money transferred. all three of these companies you see here, Sequoia, Leone, and Toyota, all three got massively hacked. And in the case of Toyota, for example, it was exactly what you just described, word by word. They got an email. It said, you got to transfer money urgently. They transferred exactly $37.3 million.
Wow.
Sequoia had had information of its investors leaked, and Leone, same as with Toyota, they didn't get 37.3. They got 44 million.
Wow.
Lost. So again, we're going back
It's
to
just a few examples of many different
many
companies that got
companies.
hacked. It is a big world, and it's a hard process to really cover all corners and make sure that you are but I think the people factor here is very important. How you train them and how you educate them, which processes you have within the company, and what awareness have you alerted on these aspects. This is what helps you in the end make sure that your people in the company will go through or will think twice before they do something. Will check if something is not feeling for them 100%. They will check again, and once you brought this awareness and made them think and help your people think in that way, it helps you. But again, you need a full infrastructure of a team that is built to protect yourself, and it's like we said, it's an evolving world, and this team and the capabilities and the way you secure yourself must also evolve.
Yeah, absolutely.
See if there is any questions from the guys here.
I'm actually checking the polls, and everybody apparently came across cybersecurity threats, whether it was in their personal or work environment.
If you want to share with us anything from your experience of cybersecurity attacks or phishing attempts that you had, we'll be happy to hear and discuss about.
One of the favorites that happened to me, and I actually had a lot of fun with the guy who attempted this with me. I got a call from the UK. Now, because I work in customer success, obviously I have a lot of clients in a lot of different countries. So getting a call from the UK is nothing very weird. But the guy was trying to convince me that he was working for Microsoft and that my computer was hacked. Now think to yourself, when would Microsoft have the time to dedicate support people to call each and individual person that might be getting hacked? So from the beginning, it was absurd. But anyway, the guy calls me and he tries to convince me that he's working for Microsoft. And I was on my break, so I was like, let's humor the guy. So long story short, basically all the guy was trying to convince me was to go into, and this is a very common scam, by the way. He was trying to convince me to go to command prompt and input the ASOC command, which is nothing more than, it's basically a command that gives you information on file directories and so on.
Yeah, but it's already weird, right? Why would someone ask you to?
This is why he asked me to input the ASOC command.
Do that
so he can convince me, because when you input ASOC command, what you get at the very end is a set of numbers and letters that are, according to the hacker, unique to your computer, and they're going to read that back to you to convince you that they know this unique number that is only to your computer, and that's how they know, they can prove that they're working for Microsoft, when in fact that is just code which is the same for every single computer. And if you check up ASOC command scam, you'll see it's always the same number. It starts with 888 DCA 60 and then it continues. Anyway, so basically he was trying to convince me to do this so that then I can download antivirus from him, and obviously that would have given him access to my system and so on. Anyway, I had fun with the guy. I humored him for a while. We played around. Eventually, I told him, "Listen, man, I'm at work. My computer's at home. It's turned off. Can we like stop this? I mean, I had fun with this and all, but anyway, the guy got very upset. He told me, "Fine, solve it yourself," and he hung up the phone.
So
I don't think a Microsoft employee would talk to you like that. I like to think that their support team would be nicer than that.
okay, let's move to the
Let's
next
move.
section.
So, cybersecurity training awareness for your employees. These are the main things, guys, you need to cover with your employees at all times. Like we discussed, phishing, calls, emails, chats. I think we've given you enough examples of that. We've spoken about insecure networks. We've spoken about malware, software updates. And this is the most important one in my experience, practical tests with employees. It never ever hurts to send suspicious emails to your employees and see whether or not they click on them.
Yeah, and I think it's also important to know how to react. So you test your employees. That's something that not every company is doing. But when you test your employees, it's also very much important to know how to test them, how to react when they fail or when they succeed. So to speak about the success and to put those places where the employee really stopped the attack or was cautious enough to alert it, and the one that are not, to know how to explain them well what was the mistake and how they can avoid it again, and obviously test them again at a later stage. But I think it's important very much to know also how to handle it. It's people in the end, and they react to it differently. No one wants to be the one that to be the reason of the hack, and you need to know how to explain that and communicate to them both in success and in failure modes.
Absolutely. So, guys, this is what you need to focus on. You really need to focus on your employees, because your company, it doesn't matter how well you encrypt your hard drives. It doesn't matter how well you do all of these things. One weak link can mean the difference between your company being happy and processing and everything going great, and or losing client data. I mean, we live in very uncertain times, and recently I was reading an article where Anonymous are now threatening every company that is still processing, that is still participating in Russia. They basically threatened all Western brands. I mean, you've got everybody from Burger King to Pizza Hut to Taco Bell to this to that. I mean,
So what? Russian hackers?
no, anonymous hackers
Anonymous.
are threatening Western brands.
Anonymous.
Anonymous.
Anonymous. Okay.
So that's why I'm saying it's important. It's very, very
Yeah, there are many cases around the world. We hear it all the time. Hacking is obviously between countries, and not only in companies. But when you go to that level, obviously we're speaking about a different type of hacking, but the methods could be very much similar. But yes, it's for different reasons.
Let's see
Let's see if
here.
we have more questions from the people here.
Alex, I just wanted to add that I think more scams could happen to private persons than companies. Some of them I heard before were the so-called popular romance scam and ID theft, but they are not actual anymore. They're not so actual anymore.
Well, first of all, you have today a lot of 3D verification, a lot of way to authenticate a person today. So yeah, you have less scams around ID theft, but from the other side, it's much more easy to hack to a single person without knowledge, without education, without a full team to support him, than to hack a company. Hacking a person, and even hacking a lot of private people, and getting from them smaller amounts can in the end sum up to a big one. So obviously hacking private persons is easy.
Yeah. Yeah. If you do a bit of research on that person, and you can do it very easily these days thanks to Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. You can just send somebody a software update, because we mentioned it. You send it by email, accept new terms and conditions. You don't notice that the link it's being sent from is not genuine. You click there, malicious malware. There was a very famous case where somebody got access to the private, the camera on somebody's computer, and took photos of them daily in their private lives, and then obviously extorted them for money.
Phishing can be also, or when you try to hack someone and to get his credit card. Our credit card are being stored in many different services that we are using, even in Netflix, right? You can have an email from Netflix asking you to re-enter your credit card. That's enough for you to go into a screen that looks like Netflix, feels like Netflix, but has nothing to do with Netflix, where you are just now re-entering your full card details, and it's not going to Netflix, right? So that card details is now going to be used to process, I don't know, $1 once in a while or a few dollars, so you won't see it or you won't feel it. And that is becoming very common today, to get emails that looks like Google, looks like Facebook, look like real companies have sent it to you, but it's not. And again, it's the little things that you need to look at. If it's the footer and how they write the email, exactly how the email is being sent, the email address that you are getting it from. Those small things are the ones that you need to look at.
Yeah, Alex agrees. He said exactly, and a lot of people should watch out for that. I agree, Alex. That's why we've covered this. But keep in mind that the Nigerian prince scam, which I mentioned earlier, that still makes about $700,000 a year, according to a 2019 article I read. So 700,000 a year for something that's been around for decades now, and it's been in a ton of movies, and everybody keeps making fun of the Nigerian prince scam.
There's always people that will fall to a trap. But again, it's like Alex says, you go to the people, not to the companies, and it's becoming easier and very untraceable when you have so many different, regions that maybe they haven't heard about this incident yet. It's the next slide.
I'm checking here. I think we're reaching the end where it should be Q&A. So guys, we've been talking. It's almost 40 minutes now. We don't want to keep people here more than they need to be. So if anybody has any more questions, feel free to ask us. We've talked about, from human error to, we've touched also a bit on some of the systems you need to have in place. I think the main takeaway from here is, besides who is working for you and how you train them, I think another thing you should always keep in mind is who you're working with. Who do you trust with your personal data? How much do you really trust all of these companies? And you need to have that trust in these companies. Ultimately, we all trust Netflix. I mean, I have a Netflix account. I'm sure you
It's
do.
also in the services you use as a company. You surround yourself with services and softwares to run your business. From the softwares that runs your websites and the infrastructure in the cloud that runs your website that you need to have protected with, Cloudflare or others that help protect or mitigate attacks on the front, and from the other side, the human factor, the fact that bright education to people will help you avoid those cases. Also, be proactive. check and test them, and learn from mistakes and celebrate success. So people will understand, and it will be a part of the DNA of the company. Matt is asking us, how often would you recommend businesses to conduct cybersecurity awareness training? Well, I think the training should be an ongoing process.
Yeah.
Should be a part of the onboarding of a new employee. Should be a part of a regular training program that you do to your employees and the content that you provide to them. I think that testing or test the employees is something that you should do throughout the year. Awareness and is something that you want to keep sharp, and you want to make sure that they keep the awareness on the high level, and so that's also a part of what teams that are designated to do that, once you are big enough, are allowing you to do and go through.
Look, like with everything, the more exposure you have with something, the more likely it is you'll be able to spot it. I worked with fake documents at one of my previous jobs, and by the end I could spot a fake document, at a blink of an eye. The more you expose yourself to it, the more you start noticing the flaws, the more you start noticing the grammatical mistakes in official emails sent by a company. I mean, come on, an official company won't be making grammatical mistakes, putting commas where they're not supposed to, or these sort of things. You'll get them
It's
from
the
somebody.
Small small
details.
You need to be very much aware. You're getting so many emails, every day, so it's becoming a bit of it's like banner blind in marketing. It's the same with email, and slowly you run too fast on them, and that's where mistakes are happening the most. So be aware, and make sure that you give your team and the right education, and like we said, keep alerted. Okay, I see that we don't have any questions, so we'll say thank you to everyone, and wish you a good evening. Let's see if we have here more questions.
1 sec, I saw something. What do we have here? Thank you, guys. Nice to have a refresher on this. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Diana.
No worries, Diana. And everyone, thank you so much for attending this.
Thank you, Alex. Yeah, good to have. Good to see you guys and the one that are coming back to our events again. So, and for the new that joined, we hope to see you again. We have another event next week, so we'll be happy to see you soon.
Yeah, just to cover that real quick, the next event is, give me 1 second. I apologize for this, but I do not actually have it in front of me.
I think it's the differences between payment gateways and payment orchestration.
Yes,
Yeah.
that is correct. Differences between payment gateways and payment orchestration.
People always get confused there, so we said let's clear that. So happy to see you on our next event, and thank you for joining us tonight. And have a great rest of the evening.
Yep. Have a good one, guys. Bye.